Hello, in this video I will just share with you the latest features of Growinfinite 2 with creating a growing fern and checking how these new workflows and assets are going to help us for creating more complex growth VFX. Let's start with creating a geometry and renaming it to Fern and dive inside, then create some add. Let's say we want just 1 point and create a growing surface. We just want 1 point, so I will switch it to the points and turn the growing surface on. Let's go to the next stage with creating a growing copy. Then let's create a growing branch. We want to use regular next level points, as the next level points are gonna be the builders of first level meshes. So let's add a growing next level points adding and plug it in. Let's continue with creating a branch bend and a branch transform. As we have some low density, it might not cover all the points. We need to increase the space density here. And let's go to the rotation. We don't want any reaction to the growth, so I will put a 0 here. Also I will put a 0 here. Let's continue with manipulating the bend. First off, let's show the guide and see how the guide looks like. I will just delete these points and put it up a bit. Also, we'll put here it's more upward and change this curve. One thing I need to have is copying this amount here, so we control the amount of segments we need here with just one parameter. We need just negate it but by 1. And let's see the results. To have more cool looking fern, I will just do more changes here. Let's say we need to have more segments, like 200, to have a more cool looking shape. And let's animate the growth from here. Put 0 at frame 0 and put 1 at the last frame. go to the branch transform node and check what we have. You can see it is coming right at this frame, which means I should change this parameter animation. At the beginning it should be exactly this number. Let's check it more precisely and just adjust the curve so it doesn't take so much for coming out of the ground. Looks cool for now, but I want to change it further. Here I can do that using these bend variation controllers. Let's say I need to delete these points, and I may also need to change this multiplier. Let's increase this number here to like 10. Let's see. Cool. We need to also change this then pose reaction. Let's say I want to have it somewhere like here. So at the beginning it should be more curly. Another thing we have to control this out of range bug is changing this bend sample scale. So if we increase that, it can help us to manage around the situation. I think I like this effect as it is right now. Just maybe change this number a bit. Also, I may just change here a bit as well. Yeah, I like it. So just another change. So let's continue with adding some growing twist. I want to have some twist based on the growth. Let's say we want to have lots of reactions based on the growth stage. Let's select these points and say we want it to have some negative value. And I want it to finish with just a little bit of twist, so we'll change this maximum or this finishing amounts. Let's check it from the front view and see. Now you can see it is somehow undulating, but we can have more cool reaction about the growth. Let's add the growing gravity. The new feature that is added to Growinfinite is custom vector attribute for gravity, and the rotation force that is predefined inside the growing branch gravity. You can use it. So let's use this rotation force, and you can immediately see that it is somehow undulating in another way that you might see. It's crazy, but with some small amount it works. I want it to have a linear type of behavior and be like this. I don't need this effect, and we can change the speed here. There is a curve that shows how it reacts to the growth. Let's say if we change this from here, it will change the direction of rotation during its growth. You can see it's acting in a nice way towards the growth. Looks cool, and we can also adjust when the growth reaction starts. So if I want, I can disable it at the start of growth, and somewhere here just starts to taking part in the motion design of this growth effect. And let's continue with creating a growing branch width. In this method, we need to predefine the width of our mesh because I want next level points to be set right on top of the base level mesh. And I will also create a growing pure view node. And use next level points here. Now let's create a leaves mesh. In this leaves mesh I can say I need to use input width. Also I can have a circle and say use custom leaf, and also add some transform to correct the normals 180 degrees rotated in X direction. And one thing you can see is that this top of branch is not getting really cool shape, but the nice thing about this method is it will just have an STD, UV and geometry, and it will not slide on its next level points. To have a fix for this area, I can create a growing color, and inside this growing color I should just change and delete these points, then go to next level grows to red graph, and with that I can generate a data that can help me to drive this issue. I will change the next level grow non-grown branch actually to red, so I can scale them to 0 for creating mesh. You can see it is somehow understanding which stage of the growth every point has. The most ungrown part is red right now, and I can come here to the growing width and change this scale effect here to be based on the red. Now we can see it is sort of behaving nice. Just need to decrease the thickness, and when our branch is small it will have more true type of thickness and no bug here. Nice. So let's continue with creating next level branch. It's just copying these nodes here and pasting them. And plugging to the width node and quickly check the results with templating this growing width. As you can see, the rotation is not what we expected, so we can simply revert to factory defaults. Nice. One other thing I need is just getting rid of this scale effect on the base. So I need more scales, more big branch actually here. One other thing is controlling the rotation. You can see these branches are kind of falling on top of each other, which might not be a good thing. So let's turn the mirrored W rotation, which is rolling amount of each branch, and delete this point to have all of the branches take this rotation, and put some number here. Oh, you can see it is coming out of that shape, but before moving forward with this, I want to change this rotation amount here. I don't want lots of cross reaction, and I want to have some negative amount here, maybe negative 50. Cool. And also I want to reduce this length to something like 0.2. And as you can see, there is some bugs happening here which can be hopefully solved. Let's first check this guide, which is looking true. And I think with increasing this to the 200, or 700 maybe, it can possibly solve the situation. Nice. One thing that I want to share with you is that right now the branches are growing at the middle of previous level mesh, but we can easily change it with here changing this parameter and adding the value of 1 to second point. Now you can see they're exactly growing on top of their parents, and here I can also change this scale effect. Let's have less scale when it is newly grown. I think it is really cool. And some other thing maybe necessary is changing this graph here, so most of brands have that gravity reaction. Also, I may need to change this lens effect with deleting this point. Let's go to the first frames and see what do we have. I may need to change this bend so we have more bend scale when our system is less grown, or previous level having less growth. Base growth to bend scale ramp can help us for that. Let's increase this amount to 10, and this one to 10 as well. You can see slowly it is starting to react. Now we can see it is getting more bend amount when it is smaller. Let's go to fully grown version and change this one to 0. And I think we need to add some point here to make sure when it is fully grown we have not much of bends or bend scales. We can also come here to change this parent scale effect. Let's make it like this, so we have less branch scale when the parent is smaller. Also, we need to have somehow more bend position value when the brands are newborn. Let's say 200 here. Nice. And let's go to next frames. I may also need to do that trick here as well, so we don't have bend scale effect from the previous level growth when it is fully grown, and more bend scale effect or bend position effect actually in this one when the branch is, or the previous level is smaller. Cool one. Let's again just negate this amount. One other thing I need is reducing the amount of branches in this level. So we have lots of leaves, which might not be the best thing to do. Also, I think this effect here can be changed a bit. Nice. I also might need to change this bend position based on base grow to be like 60 maybe. It will mean when it is smaller we have more bend amount, more position amount. When this position amount overall is more, the system will take the gross amount from upper part of our guide, which means it will come and take the amounts of bend from this portion of guide, and if it's lower it will get closer to have a base of our branches from somewhere from here to take the amount of bend from here towards upward. So just it might help you to figure out what parameters can work for you when you be more aware from how this actually is working. One other thing that I think is important to take care is this gravity, and in this gravity I want base grow effect. So when base is smaller it should have less amount of gravity, and when it is bigger it takes more amount of gravity. And one other thing here looks to be important to do is changing this curve further, because it is not in the fully grown stage. So I will just change this part here. Let's see. Yeah, it seems to be working in this way. Let's add some point here to make sure when it is small I will have that more curly look. To change the density and having more good looking density, I will add a delete node here and say I want to delete points based on range, and I want to delete non-selected and keep just one from each 3 points. And I don't want the base to be included, so let's start from 2. Seems to be better. looks cool. And one thing I may want to do is just copying this parameter and putting here with some negative value, pasting relative references and multiplying it by, let's say, 20 and having a power of 2. When you increase the exponent of a number under 1, it will be decreased when it is smaller. Basic mathematics. So when it's smaller, I don't want to have such amount of effect, but when it is growing more, I want it to be more in charge. Let's see how it works. Yeah, it is now working in a nice way, I believe. I want really a difference, a notable difference between here and here, which this curve is helping me to generate. Let's just continue with creating next level. With first, let's also create the mesh. Copying this system exactly here. Here we can just continue with copying this whole graph and pasting to connect to previous level. To make sure it will not crash and have more optimized workflow, I will add growing optimize mesh in the copy mode. This will delete every branch which will not be growing after the finishing of the growth. So it will just keep the stability of number of points and increase our speed. Looks like to be working and having some cool look. let's just make these two as templates and continue working from here. I want to change this rotation to be like -90 maybe. One other thing can be just checking the last frame. And copying this formula to have something like that here. And when the parent is not fully grown but the growth is completed, I want all of these to be straight, which might not be something happening in nature, but to art direct my process, I may need to have some control like this. Nice. And the other thing might be here to change this amount to a different number. Let's say 10. So they roll a bit towards forward. Now you can see it is just getting a mirrored rotation, which might not be something we look for. To take care of this problem, we have several ways, but let's just check which one will work for this situation with getting it back to negative to the same amount, which was 90. And here I can add some green color, but before I'm doing that, let's fine tune this effect a bit further. Yeah, I didn't want that circulated look when everything is finished. So the solution for this one can be really simple. Let's add a green color here, or here I can just use some color for my Y rotation. So I can here add a growing color and say I want it to be creating some information based on being mirrored. We're changing the mirror to blue. Here I can detect which branches are having mirror transformations, which is visible right here, and come to this branch transform. Before switching it on, I want to use base color to have the color information visible in this level. Now we can just change this blue to rotation. Let's switch to manual to increase the speed, and let's say we want -1 here. So when the blue is 0, it will have negative impacts on our growth. To having a better visibility when the background is black, I can also have some more color information here. Let's say it is 1, and for now we are yet manual, so we will not see the update till we done the modifications we need to do. And here I want to have 180 degrees of rotation in y-axis. Let's see the results. Cool. It is now getting a rotation that I want to have. Let's change it to -90 and see which one works better. I know 180 equals -180 when it's about rotation, but in Growinfinite sometimes numbers gonna be a bit more like crazy. So I will test everything. So 90 is like what I want. Let's have it 110. To see, I want it a bit more upward than what it is right now. 70, I hope work. Yeah, I think it is a better direction. Might 50 be the number I want to have? Okay, it seems to be like what I need to have for this level. It works fine. One other thing here I may want to do is changing this scale reaction about the parent growth, so we have less scale change based on the parent growth, which means when they are smaller they can have bigger amount of scale when their parents is smaller actually. Cool. And I believe we can just reduce this amount. I'm not sure what's. Before doing that, let's create a more cool branch end effect. You know, I want have more density and gravity towards the end of each branch, so let's just move these 2 points here. It should increase the density at the very end of each branch. And it is something growth related during the time of the growth, yeah. It is just getting more cool reaction to this parent tip of branch. I also need to change this rotation a bit, right? Or just less negative amounts, or here I increase this blend scale reaction. You see there is huge amount of control over what we can create using Growinfinite, but it should not drive us crazy. Here I wanted to do that change, but there are no worries. And let's say we want to have more positive values, so these branches don't follow the base normal in this amount. and -20 here maybe. I don't want to change this branch scale from here, so it causes lots of headaches later on for fixing the bend again, because it might have some effects. If I do it from here, I will just try to change this scale this way, so we have bigger branch when the parent is even very newborn, and some change here as well. But to have, yeah, I may do it from here as well. Let's see. As it is getting out of range. Now you see that it can create a headache, and you may need to have lots of arrangement because it is somehow sensitive to the scale of sample branch it chooses automatically. So I will just try to change this sample scale to get what I need. And after this, I will add a branch manipulation, and I simply change the scale from here. So we don't need to deal with the complexity of changing branch bend and stuff like that. Let's see first frames. It seems we are getting out of range the first frames. I'm not sure. Let's increase this bend pose reaction. One thing that looks to be problematic is these meshes from this leaves mesh are not what we think they should be, so let's just change the graph so we be sure that those problems will not show. I'm not sure it should not do it in that way, but it is somehow. Sure, it was not the problem of here. It seems to be a result of changing this graph and this branch and control, which throws lots of points towards the end of our branch, which is creating some undesired look here, as it will have not enough points to deal with mesh creation. Now let's check what we have. It seems to be solved right now. It is also happening for this level, but here I think we didn't do such modification, so we may need to adjust it using these curves. In this growing color, we can also create another color amount for the branch scale to drive the width, or here simply you can say that we don't want this amount of width when our branches are super small actually. Sorry, it's not the curve. Branch size impact should be something like this. And can be more like a BSP line curve. At some point here. At some point here. Okay, I think it is in the direction that we can use it. I may need to change this further. Let's say it can be 60. Might be a better result. And let's see them together. Last frame. Yeah, we changed this bend, but we didn't change this other side multiplier to reduce that bend scale when everything is finished. Adding more exponent to this amount will just simply result to decreasing it. Let's also increase this power. Now I want to increase this bend scale right here to be like 200. Or 500. One thing I think is not really working as expected is this change here. It's resulting to a little bit of irregulation of shapes in the next level. It needs lots of manipulation to be working, but it's really a cool effect, don't take me wrong. can do that trick for previous level too, so we don't have that problematic jaggy shapes. Even when it is super small. One other thing seems to be crucial is having maybe a different angle for the leaves. Let's see the finished version. We can just simply use same expression wrote here with the other amount that this bend scale has to take care of last frame look. I want it to be 500, and here I will put just 300. Or maybe 400. Yeah. I also want to have a negative amount of bends, so let's try it from here and see how it looks. Yeah, I think it is more close to what we need. We can just change this sample scale to take care of these problems, which we have some out of range bug. and I think it is now in a cool way driving the effect. Looks nice. I want also share with you a fix for this base to be more aligned with its parent. So if I go here and template it on and off and add some branch gravity, I don't want these effects from here, but I just need to have a simple effect on just this base. So if we have deselect to a ES spline and use just custom attribute name, which is sec_f, and increase this amount, you can see it is now working on our subject, but it is a bit high. And I want it to be in negative direction. Okay. It can help these sections to be somehow more fit to their parents. Now if we just check the shape, it should be visible. We can also add some rays to project the base to its parent, but I just wanted to give you an idea about what Growinfinite can offer for this sort of fixing and attributes contribution on creating desired look for our growing systems. So let's also, I don't want these branches that coming out from the base, so I will change this value to 0. And it should be gone. Yeah, it's gone. The shape looks nice, and we can somehow see the results. One thing that should be corrected seems to be right here. Now these are just taking right look that we need. We can continue with just copying this level one more time to have some leaves on top of it. Let's copy this whole system and paste it down here. Let's switch to manual mode to take care of changes we need for this level. I don't want these two nodes to work like before, and also here I don't need this peer view to be done in using next level points mode, and I don't want custom leaf and don't want this effect. I will just try to create some simple leaves to wrap up what we can do, but we can really push it further with lots of stitching possibilities it provides, but I will possibly share that in another video if I don't lock into that in this one. Here we need to just change this branch scale and stuff, but first let's start with changing this width multiply. Seems to be something we need, and let's first check the bend guide. I think we need to simply put 2000 here and everything would be fine, I hope. be sure that our machine will not blow up, we can also reduce these segments here. Let's disconnect this part and see the base level and the angles our leaves are going to have with that. I think we don't need this lead node. So we have more leaves on top of the parents. Yes, somehow. Is looking fine. Let's just decrease the scale of leaves. Looks nice to me, and it is somehow very too much regular. So to take that regularity, I can do something here which, for example, might be this scale nose ramp. With switching to manual mode, I will make sure I will have more speed during the work. I will just convert it to a BSP line mode, copy parameter, and here's also, let's change that scale effect. Paste values and increase this amplitude to 1 to take the effect into account. Also here we can do the same thing. Sorry, not here. In this scale node ramp. Let's paste the values and put the amount of 1 here to see what did we do. Let's just switch to auto update. may also add some noise, but here is something I want to keep in terms of regularity. Let's see if we are able to make same joke again with this level. Let's switch to almost up and change this one to see how we can change this density on top of our main level. Yeah, maybe it's something cool. Let's move on to see how everything is working with these leaves and their shape. We need to change the rotation right here to be 90, I think, in the z-axis. Yeah, it seems to be cool and working. Now let's plug it to other levels and see the whole mesh together. Let's change this density to 1.2 maybe. So we have some leaf drop-offs here and there. Looks better. And let's also increase the scale from here. So it might be 1.5. And let's change this thickness or width to 1.8 maybe. One thing that I feel we should just take care is this thickness. It should be a bit more controlled. We are able to have some other growing color. In this one, I want to assign parent grows to the blue channel, or even these levels. Yeah, I think I need to do it with parent grows. So let's delete these points and go to base grow to red. When it is less grown, it is more red, and change its channel to green and add this color to the color we have. And in the width, I can simply go and change the effect based on the green amount. So when it is more green, I have less thickness and less problematic jaggy shapes. It is working better, I think. For the leaves, I think we can have a bit more manipulation. I will need to do some growing color here and detect the scale of parent of our leaves and manage something using that. So this should be 0. And I need to have this base branch scale to blue. So the more big the base is, the more blue the color would be. And here I need to just change that scale effect so we have less huge leaves when we have smaller branches. Again, I can use this parameter here, copy parameter, and paste relative references. So I have that into account. When the growth is less, I have smaller leaves on my last level. Now let's see the whole mesh together. And we need to use the same method here, I think. And increase this thickness to something like 0.03. I want to have less thickness on this parent level, maybe, to have better look. Let's see how we can just change the angle of these leaves in this level with some manipulation here. So let's say I want the value of 1 and multiply of 90. Sorry, not x-axis. I want to change the y-axis. Let's delete this point. Let's add another just growing color. Here I want to create the attribute of mirrored and based mirrored. So go all the way down to reach the mirrored to blue. And base mirror to red. We need to use just green and red channels, so let's try to switch the color channels from here. Yeah, it is now just green and red channel, and let's change this to add mode. And in the manipulation, let's say we need to use those effects and see what is happening. Let's unplug this from here and template the base so we have better idea. And let's change it to 70 You see, with manipulation node, we have more speed and interactivity. So, and let's say we want just to have it in 50 degrees. We need to multiply all the channels. So red, no, let's just don't do that. We have this green to based mirror. I think it is something will help us. So let's put a -1 here, and it looks like something we need. Yeah, the base mirror is helping us to have the change we need and have our leaves a bit more outward than parallax. Now let's plug these to our final merge and check what do we have. I think it is better and cooler. So let's just increase this leaves width to 0.05 maybe. One thing I should to reconsider is the density randomness. I think I should not do that, but I have some else thing to do, which is having some noise on these leaves. So let's go to manual mode and add some growing noise. Make it BSP line, make it relative to the girl's power with BSP line, and may not use the scale effect a lot, and yeah, it should be basically it. We'll have some crazy noise, but no worries, I will reduce the amount of it. Let's switch to the growing noise to see it before visiting everything together. Yeah, it is somehow creating a variation, equal variation. Let's just decrease that amplitude and maybe increase the frequency a bit. Let's just simply copy and paste these two previous levels and hope it works. Switch to auto update and see. Yeah, I think reducing the frequency can help. What about the first level? It might be working a bit here. Let's see the merge. it seems to be more natural and cool, and I like what it is providing to me. So let's just see some other frames of our animation. It looks kind of cool. You know, I can continue with modifying and editing this Fern in any art direction that I need to, but I think it now is getting you a grasp idea about what you can do using Growinfinite 2 and how far you can take your direction and growth creation for your visual effects or the TV commercials you're creating. So with that said, I would like to create some preview to see this kind of huge fern in action. Great. Now that we have this space, I think there is some change needed, and to start I will change the angles. I think this level branch should somehow be more aligned with their parents, so more negative values here might be helpful. Negative 50 I think is something with better look. And in this Y rotation, I think we need to have more tight angles, so it is very wide. To make it more tight, I think 200 will make them more close together. In different direction, upward like. I think it is better. And to continue, I believe here we should also have more negative values, so the leaves also follow the parents they have. And for the mesh, I believe that we may need to add some twist to it, so the leaves have some twist along their spine. Cool. And something I think is yet needed is controlling the thickness when the system is at its earlier stage of growth. So let's go to frame 48 and see. Yeah, I think it is very tiny and less like what we need. I also believe that this noise should be controlled somehow, so when the scale is smaller we have less noisiness. And here I believe that this thickness should also be managed. I've used this curve for reacting to the base growth with large amounts of impact. So let's reduce this power here. So when the system is smaller, we have not that much smaller leaves, just a little bit impact. Very good. I think it is the way to go. And the other thing might be, let's go to last frame. Cool. Now I want to have some twists so the leaves don't be this super flat shape. Adding a growing twist. I want the twist type to be in mesh mode, which is the force type, and input 3. Let's also disable this curve and make something from scratch. And I also don't need this grow effect on twist. I think maybe a little bit. And here we don't need this effect as well. Now you can see it is twisting, and I may need to negate the amounts. I think it is better. Let's reduce the thickness a little bit. And let's check the final shape. Looks good and close to what we need. To move on, let's just add some changes here. So I think this effect for the base should be controlled somehow, which is this gravity. It should be a little bit affected by the growth, so on a smaller branches we have less of gravity. Sorry, not this curve. We should go to here, or even here, I think. I believe it's better. Also, I can do some sort of fine-tuning later on with adding some rays. Let's create a growing color. And here I want to change the color based on the position of each point over its parent. Lens to red. So we can just simply select the spaces, and let's add a ray soap and simply use previous level as second input, minimum distance, and in the scale let's use the add cd.r. Now you can see it is projecting these points on their parents with ease, as the system is already getting some exact transformation. This ray soap can easily do the rest and do the fine tuning for us. Now let's see the final output. Cool. Now we have great shape to move on with further detailing, which is creating the furs on top of this fern using the growing bark, new HDA that I've added to Growinfinite 2. Using this growing bark, you can simply add some furs on top of your geometry as well. So let's create another growing drawing and drawing end effect and a leaves mesh and some circle for the section. Also, let's add some growing noise to have some noise on it. Let's see the base shape that we have. I want it to be a custom leaf. We need to transform this to 180 degrees again, and let's add some noise. This noise can be in mesh mode. Also, we don't need this grow power. Let's increase this amount and decrease this frequency. This one looks cool, and let's simply plug it here. To make any instancing system using Growinfinite work, almost in Houdini, it is somehow a rule that if you want to instance some shape and you want it follow the normals, it's better to do a transform and make it align with z-axis. So if you rotate in x by 90 degrees, it will be aligned with the z-axis, so it can follow the normals better. So let's see here. Very huge. Let's just change this scale 0.01, 0.05 maybe, or 2 even. Let's increase this thickness to 0.1. Now let's increase the amount of our furs here. No, it is more like a spider, but yeah, it's beautiful. I like this. Let's increase the directional scale to something like 3 maybe. This normal scale also will help you to compress the shapes that you have created regardless of their direction to the surface they are emitted from. So let's make 0.5. It will be more aligned and compress it to the surface it's generated from. Okay, it is somehow completed, and if you want to render it using third-party renderers like Octane, you will need to export it with a null to another geo and make instancing available on that one. Let's show real quick. And turn this one on. Come out and create another geometry. Name it Fern. I just linked it if I want to transform this one, that be transformed as well. object merge because I don't like to use this transform feature. And if you do it, you need to make package instancing option on here, so your geometries be packed instance. Let's switch to show all objects and dive inside, then play around with this scale. really wild, I know, but it is something fun at the same time. Let's just change this frequency, switch to almost up, so we have more frequency. I think it is the noise effect that causes some spaces have super huge furs and some spaces have smaller furs. Yeah, it is exactly it. And let's now simply just scale down the furs. Yeah, I think it is somehow final, and you can do super close and epic shots from this fern, not just some simple unrolling geometry. It is actually growing and having lots of reactions to the growth that it has. The results are obvious. You can also see that in 2.5 hours we could generate this epic fern with really live-like reactions. But it's your choice. If you want to do your own system, you can also spend some time on it, but believe me, it took like 4 years for me to develop the base, and it's an ongoing process of developing different aspects of this algorithm to make it possible that, and develop it to a stage that lots of artists, lots of big artists, and motion design houses and VFX companies are right now using it to make impossible tasks friendly, done in a matter of days, instead of having an endless loop of back and forth with developing a new algorithm that might not also work at the end. Cool. Thanks for tuning in and checking this video of creating a super realistic fern and making it grows with lots of control over the art direction of our final output. Checking how Growinfinite 2 can improve your pipeline on VFX and motion design you're creating. And have a great day ahead. Bye.